Alright, so the purpose of this video tutorial is to show how to inspect Block 1 from the MET-120 metrology class. So we have the blueprint up here, and we're going to inspect L1, L2, basically all the different lengths that you see on this part. So step number one would be we have to fixture the part in a way that makes sense. How can we access all of those different dimensions? So here's our standard fixture plate here. Here's our part in the real world, and it's like, do we want to orient it like this or like that or like this? Does it make a difference? Well, looking back at the blueprint, it looks like pretty much everything can be measured in the XY plane. It looks like we really want to be measuring this. We can measure that length, this length, that width, whatever we need to measure if we just lay it down like that. Now, the easiest way to fixture this so that it's at least somewhat aligned with the machine's axes would be your standard 3-2-1 alignment, meaning when I set this on the surface plate, only the highest 3 points of the fixture plate are touching the part. The next thing I'll do is bring this up against 2 points, which would be the 2 points on that set screw, and now I have to stop it from moving back and forth, so I'll put another set screw over here. And this is, we would call this quick and dirty for fixturing. It's not pretty, but it doesn't have to be either. All you have to do is put the part in the same spot time after time, and it looks like that is going to do that for us. Now, we also have to make sure that the pressure from the probe is not going to move this, and the simplest way of doing that would be to grab a pressure clamp over here and put that hopefully as out of the way as we can, and it looks like something like this might be our best bet. Now, in a perfect world, we would use CAD software to simulate the position of that clamp so that way we can stay off of it, but in this case I think we'll use the teach-in method, which means I'll be just driving around using the controller and putting all the points in manually. We do just have to be very careful that we put the clamp in the same spot each time, because if next time we run this job, if we don't have any CAD to show us where that should go, and if we put the clamp here, well, if we're trying to measure the overall height of the part that way, and this clamp's in the way, the probe could potentially come down on top of the clamp. So that would really be our main concern. We have to make sure that we document this setup in some way. CAD, of course, being the easiest way. You can also just take a picture on a cell phone and save that with the associated files, and just note the position of that clamp. Kind of take a picture from the top view so you can see it a little better. So that's how we fixture this part in this case. Alright, so looking at that, can we get all of the dimensions we're looking for? Can we measure the L1? It looks like we can. L1 will have to touch at least 1 point on this side and at least 1 point on that side after our initial alignment, and we'll just compare the distance. What else do we need? L2, can we access this surface and this surface? Yes, we can. L3 would be the overall thickness. Now, this isn't technically best practice because we don't know how flat this surface plate is, but if we're just doing plus or minus 5/1000 dimensions, it should get us close enough to just have a point or a couple points on top of the part and at least 1 point on the surface plate, and that'll give us an approximation of the thickness. Of course, we can always verify with dial calipers or micrometer later. And then let's see, L4, L5, and L6 require us to be able to touch all around the back side of the part here. So it looks like this position that we've selected kind of at random for the clamp is going to be good for us. Now also notice that these set screws have intentionally been put pretty close to the top surface of the fixture plate. In other words, they're not sticking up very far. That's to make sure that they're out of the way of the probe as it's moving around the part. So that's what goes on with fixturing. You have to make sure that you can put the part in the same position time after time, quickly and easily. Right, so it looks like that's satisfying that for us. 3 points on the top surface, 2 points on the front, 1 point on the left side. You have to be able to clamp the part in some way that it can't move, and you want the position of that clamp to be somewhat repeatable. And to test if it's going to move or not, you can just gently tap it with your finger. If you don't feel any movement, you're probably good. Heavier parts don't even require clamping. And the last thing would be documenting your setup to make sure that you can replicate it in the future. So we've checked all those boxes. We have also already turned on the CMM. So